Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Odette Kolenky, and welcome to the Domestic Violence Center of Chester County's Lunch and Learn event, Changing Lives, a celebration of Black women leaders in the movement to end domestic violence in Chester County. We are here to celebrate Black History Month by highlighting the accomplishments of Black women leaders in the effort to end domestic violence here in Chester County. We are honored to be able to sit down today with Dr. Dolly Wideman-Scott. Dr. Dolly Wideman-Scott has served as the Chief Executive Officer of the Domestic Violence Center, Chester County, since 1996. Before beginning her tenure at DVCCC, Dr. Wideman-Scott interned at grassroots nonprofit organizations that help to foster her passions for helping survivors affected by domestic violence. Her experience working in the nonprofit sector led to a position at the Domestic Abuse Project in Chester County, where she worked for 16 years. Wideman-Scott holds a bachelor's degree in social work and a master's degree in human resource management from Widener University, and a doctor of education, innovation, and leadership from Wilmington University. Our second guest today is cultural advocate, Miss Amanda Winkie. An advocate, activist, and poet, Miss Winkie has been with DVCCC for almost 13 years as a counselor for the Coatesville Outreach Office. She has an extensive career working with at-risk communities spanning over 22 years. Her previous roles consist of working as a program coordinator for the Chester County Department of Community Development in the development of welfare. Ms. Winkie holds a Bachelor's of Arts majoring in journalism and counseling from the Cheney University of Pennsylvania. Again, we'd like to welcome everyone here today. And I'll start with my first question, which is, tell me about your history working with victims of domestic violence. What was your role in this work, and what inspired you to get into this work?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Odette, very much for organizing this event and for that warm introduction. As Odette said in her summary, that I began this work as an advocate more than 40 years ago. And I had the wonderful opportunity to do my internship with the Domestic Abuse Project in Delaware County. And after I completed my internship there, I was hired to be a counselor advocate and also a legal advocate. Again, during those times, we did both roles. And so I really love the clinical aspect of helping individuals, and I also was interested in the administration of an organization. And so within the organization, I applied for different positions. And when I left Domestic Abuse Project in Delaware County, I was the assistant director. And then after that, I came to the Domestic Violence Center in Chester County as the executive director. Then my title later changed to be the CEO. With the movement, I also had a wonderful opportunity because I was interested in leadership, that I became connected and involved with the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence, also known as the PCADV. And I had opportunities to be a part of many groups that they had. And one group was the Women of Color Caucus. And I was the chair of the Women of Color Caucus for many years. And then after that, I became the chair of the Diversity Committee, which I have been a chair of that committee for many years. So working with diverse groups, diversity, Women of Color Caucus, the diversity was really important to me. And you asked, how did I become interested? What inspired me? As a youth, my family, we were heavily involved from the time I can remember in the NAACP and the civil rights movement. And with that, I can remember that as a child, we built a human chain around a home of an individual who was about to be evicted. And we said, no, this can't happen. And from that moment on, I decided that my mission in life is to help others. And I was really strongly devoted to having my career focus on helping women and children. And the connection with the school to the domestic abuse project in Delaware County really inspired me more to work with victims, survivors of domestic violence, and also to be engaged with policies and procedures and practices. So again, my inspiration came from the civil rights movement and the connection from the university to the domestic violence movement. I am extremely grateful for all of that opportunities.
Thank you so much for that answer. Miss Amanda? You're still muted.
Well, most of my love for what I do started early in life. Um, my career spanned it from working with youth. Once I completed my degree at Cheney University, and before, I involved myself with my community, and I worked closely with youth, and I worked in different organizations to help complete different tasks that I needed to accomplish to get where I am today. But what I have done is basically worked with the community, and that's where I've gotten all of the information that I need to survive through what I am involved in at the moment. And right now, I can go over some of my achievements. I am editor of Afrocentric, which is the first Black magazine in the history of Chester County. Uh, one publishment. I have an award of excellence for dedication and service to impoverished children. I'm a freelance poet and essayist, twice published. I've also been inducted into the National Library of Poetry. But what has brought me to where I am today is my involvement as a victim of domestic abuse, and being exposed to that. It started with me when I would console my mother and lay on her lap after she was beaten by my father, and caught the tears falling from her eyes onto my face. It it usually happened on Friday, payday, and all she wanted was money to feed her family. And all she wanted was to go out on the town. That's all he wanted, and leave my mother and her 10 children behind. I didn't know at the time that my desire to comfort anyone who was sad or hurting would dictate my whole life. Fast forward to 2008 when I was hired by the Domestic Violence Center, never realizing that I was given the key to the city because I was still in recovery myself. My role as a rapid response crisis counselor came with many hats. I was coordinator for the pilot program at the Brandywine Hospital and the Coatesville Police, which was implemented to reduce time lapsed between police intervention and or emergency room treatment. Also assisted the Coatesville Police Department in implementation of the Legality Assessment Program, LAP. The purpose of this program is to identify victims of intimate partner violence who are at the greatest risk of being killed, getting them out of harm's way and encouraging them to contact DVD while the police are still on site. I am located at the Coatesville Center for Community Health, and my job is to help eradicate the domestic violence that provocates our community today. And I have so much else to say. And to this morning, when I came in to work, I thought about doing this on Zoom and had everything set up because I've never done a Zoom before. And right now, I can only talk about myself and why I came to the Domestic Violence Center and why I am happy that I was hired for this position. I've been here 13 years, and what I have accomplished with my clients is the strength to identify their needs and to help them accomplish that.
Thank you so much for that wonderful answer. We're going to lead into our second question, which is, you each have held a different role working with victims and survivors of domestic violence in Chester County. Thinking back on when you first started this work, especially considering the unique experiences you had in your roles, what did the culture around domestic violence look like? And what do you think that these perceptions have changed? If so, how?
That's a great question, Odette. And again, in my 40-year tenure, I have the opportunity to work with and witness a great deal. One of the things that come to mind is when we really did many peaceful protests around the issue of domestic violence and the need for additional services, that laws need to be enhanced and changed. One of the situations that came to mind, again, with one of our protests was basically we walked around the state capitol and the town of the city of Harrisburg. We had signs, we had t-shirts, we were really organized. And when we arrived at the state capitol, just like today, they say, drop the mic, we dropped the shoestrings and we said, we need more than shoestring budgets and shoestring services for survivors of domestic violence. And this has to change. That we all know a victim of domestic violence. Victims are in our families. Victims are in our neighborhoods, our communities of faith. Victims are here. And it is some unfortunate reality that victims are continuing to be abused verbally, emotionally, physically, and that in putting faces on victims, we have to talk about the seriousness of the issue and to make the perpetrators of abuse accountable by having local, state, and national laws to really address this issue and to have funding. Again, when we look at other organizations and services, again, my goal is not to beat up on the sports arena, But look how much those individuals get paid. Look how much is invested in that. And that's great. You know, I'm shouting at football games and basketball games. I love them too. But look about what we're doing as victim advocates for survivors, and look at how we have to continue to ask and ask and ask for support, for funding, for laws. And again, we're not going to stop doing that. We're not going to stop. We don't get tired. You know, we're going to continue to do that. So again, really putting faces, talking about individuals who have been seriously injured, individuals who have died. That impacts all of us. So in terms of the cultural, it's really the same in my opinion, but our strategies to address it have been refined and upgraded.
Thank you so much. Ms. Amanda?
Okay. With me, as I said, I deal every day with domestic violence because domestic violence does not discriminate. However, it is more prevalent in poor and deprived areas. So that's one of the gifts that I have. I'm able to tap into those vital avenues. And just this morning, before I left, I was discussing with my stepdaughter how about the family that was recently murdered by the father and the two sons and his wife and took his own life. And we were just talking about it because before you get in front of an audience, you have so much to say. You have it all laid out until you get in front of that audience. And so we were talking, and she said, yes. She said, one of the little boys went to school with my grandson. He was his classmate. And prior to that, when it happened, my grandson came to my room and he said, "Grandma," he said, what do you do? I know you're into domestic violence. Can you stop people from killing each other?" And I thought it was some type of class project that he had to do. And just this morning, she informed me that the school called my son and informed him that my grandson's classmate was one of those young boys that were murdered. So violence touches everyone, not just that initial crime and those people involved, but it touches us all. And we do need funding. That is the paramount reason for us staying as we are and able to do what we do for victims of abuse. And my job is to be here when they need help. And as Dolly said, you know, it comes in all cultures. And it has indeed changed simply because the Women Against Abuse Act has helped out quite a bit in curtailing it. And the fact that we do have a strong legal staff that in the PFA, even though it's there and it works, and we have a strong police force in this community. The LAP program, which is facilitated by Sergeant Alice, which is on our board and which plays a dominant role in our community, as well as the Black churches. That's another thing that we have to identify with the faith-based organizations, because before that, the Woman Against Crime Act came in, we depended on those churches. And we as people of color, that was the place for us to go for everything that we might need, from food to rent to doctor care, to medical care, because we are living in a medical desert, a food desert, you know. So in food insecurities and all that, and especially now, since we're in the midst of this pandemic, it has even escalated the needs of the victims that we serve.
You both raised so many amazing points, and we definitely still have a long way to go until we can.
Yes, I mean we have miles and miles to go.
I'm glad that you two are on the charge to help us end domestic violence. So we'll go on to our next question. We know that domestic violence doesn't discriminate, as this is an issue that affects all communities. However, we know that there are systematic challenges that may affect survivors of color differently. What unique experiences or challenges do you think survivors of color face when seeking assistance? And how can these challenges be addressed? Or if they have, how have these challenges been addressed?
Thank you, Odette. Social, political, and economic inequities, racial injustice, those are all challenges that Black and Brown individuals face every single day from the time they are born. And that's a reality. And also there's always different treatment that wherever, as a Black woman, wherever we go, there is different treatment. And I think that those of us who are Black and Brown, we know we have many stories about different treatment. I just want to share with you a recent situation that happened to me. And yes, this was recent in 2021. I went to a drugstore, and again, with the social distancing, everybody stands in their circle, but you can overhear. And so three individuals who were all white that approached the counter before me, the individual who was working, who was also white, she asked all of them, would you like to contribute to a fund for the teachers? All three of them. When it came to me, I paid for my goods, and I waited for a second because I was prepared to give a donation, and she never said anything. And so I almost walked out, but I hesitated and kind of turned around and I said, uh, can you help me understand? I said, the three previous customers before me, you asked them if they would be interested in contributing to the teachers fund. How come you didn't ask me that question? Of course, the person was speechless. And I just said, uh-huh, you know, and it's like, it's not the first time that this has happened to me. And I was like, it's a shame because it was a loss to the teachers, because now I'm not gonna give a contribution to that. And again, this is different treatment. And wherever we go, we never know when it's gonna happen. It just plops up. It just plops up, you know, and again, it's not that we think about it all the time, but it happens, and it's like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, you know, this is really sad. But again, it's different treatment, and so we as individuals who are in a domestic violence movement, we at the Domestic Violence Center, we are constantly assessing our services and what we're doing. And we are doing our best. Yes, we're not perfect, but we are doing our best to make sure that we are delivering equal services for all. We do our own check-ins on a personal level and on an organizational level in terms of how we are providing services, offering services to all of the individuals that come into contact with the organization. So I would say that as a individual, as a person, as a Black woman, that I've learned how to professionally call out situations. And as I continue to be more and more mature, I do it more often. And it's like, I'm ready to call you out, and I'll do it professionally, but I will do it more often, because it's like, hey, I'm going to let you know that you need to check yourself, because this is my lived experience. And this is what you are doing to individuals that look like me, Black and brown individuals.
Well, thank you. It has followed me all my life simply because I was born poor. That's a double strike against you if you are Black and you are born poor and you are raised by a single mother. But that does not stop there. Once you become an adult, you are more or less bombarded with the sense that you're no one, that you are made to feel like you shouldn't have been born. And that goes to from buying things, from going into stores. I had a situation with a car dealership right here in Thorndale where I purchased my car. And I got a letter 2 years ago that they had discriminated against their Black customers, and my name came up. And they settled. They had a settlement, and they settled, but they had discriminated against me. I paid more for my car, and it happens all the time. And just last summer, I paid more to get my car inspected because of the pandemic. And since the pandemic has hit, we are paying right here in Coatesville. If you go into some of these corner stores, you're going to pay $3, $4 for a loaf of bread. You're going to pay $2 and some odd cents for a roll of toilet paper. And this happens before the pandemic hits. So we're talking about victims of abuse and being in a situation where they find themselves homeless with no resources. And that is why it's viable, it's important that everyone that is here under my voice hearing me mess up, we're asking you to help us, because what we're doing, there's no price on it. When people come to that door, when our clients come to that door, I had a client come by yesterday evening after we helped her stay in her home and paid her rent. She said, I just dropped by to say thank you. So that's the gist of it. We're not doing this for any type of status or any type of hero, any type of crown. We're doing this to help people survive.
I also want to add, and sorry, Odette, for interrupting you, that really we have to make sure Black and brown people are not only at the table, but we are eating. We are helping to review local, state, and national laws, policies, and procedures. And not just to have that token one person,
Right.
but at all tables, it should be diverse groups from many, many different backgrounds. So again, it's really, really important. And as an organization, we are looking around our tables and what we're doing as an organization and how we can do better. And we are rolling up our sleeves, and we are really, really implementing change within our own doors. So I'm not just saying this and not walking the walk. we are walking the walk.
Right.
We're just not talking, we're doing. And again, call us out. Please do call us out. If we missed the beat, let us know, because we do want to hear about it. Because our goal, it's not about me, it's about providing the best services. It's for ensuring that we have local laws and practices that would benefit all survivors of domestic violence, and that they are fair in everything for all.
And if we would just try to work together to eradicate the division and the racism, just in 10 years, the last 10 years, we could have uh, accumulated $16 trillion just by accepting and dealing with equal opportunities among Black and brown people.
You both raised important points about how it's important for organizations that provide services to people to hold themselves accountable about how clients feel when they come to them. I think that was a great point that you guys both raised. In your respective fields, you are all accustomed to breaking barriers. As a female leader of color, what has been the most significant barrier you faced in your career?
Again,
Making money.
and looking around the table of the domestic violence movement, I don't have the number, but of all of the 58 domestic violence programs in the state of Pennsylvania, there are a handful of Black and brown women of color leaders of domestic violence organization.
I think it's 4.
And looking around the table at Chester County as a whole, there are very few Black and brown leaders of nonprofit organization. So in terms of breaking barriers, that being a Black woman who is a leader for a nonprofit organization and who is continuing to make change and strides, that I know that every single day barriers are being broken. I know that it is really critical and important for youth to look around and to see who's doing what, and to be inspired to want to go into different fields, and particularly nonprofit fields, that individuals may say, well, I don't have an interest. So again, as leaders and for us to break barriers, we need to really mentor youth, bring others along the way, teach them, help them, always encourage them, and also to be vulnerable. You know, that during my career, I have made some mistakes, but the thing about making mistakes is learning from them and getting up and making things better. And to also own the mistakes. And that's a part of being vulnerable, being a leader, and breaking barriers. That it's important for others to see, wow, you know, this Dolly is a genuine, honest person with integrity, that she really does try to strive to do her best.
Yeah.
And when she does make an error, you know, she'll own it. Sometimes I'll chuckle and say, oh, believe me, I don't know what I was thinking that day, you know, but you know, here it is. This is what I really meant to do or meant to say. But again, to continue to break down those barriers, and don't be afraid to join committees and groups. Don't be afraid to approach our legislative bodies and to ask questions and to say, hey, you know, what's going on here? That do you think this is fair? And to have them bring it back home and to say, well, for your family, do you think this is fair? And for them to give pause, hopefully that they are reasonable individuals and will give pause and would say, yeah, I am agreeable. I think we do need to have some change in local policies and practices and statewide, and be at the table when there are national changes that would be critical for the domestic violence movement as a whole. So in terms of breaking barriers, that we need to continue working and not giving up. And what I do behind closed doors, yes, I get frustrated, and I know how to get in my car or come home, scream, cry, but say, you know what? You're not going to break my spirit. Not going to let you do it. If anything, I'm going to be stronger.
Mhm.
And it's like, you watch out, watch out, particularly when something goes wrong. It's like, nope, nope, nope. It's like, I will get in touch with myself. I'll pull it together, but I'm going to be stronger. So individuals who have really have not been supportive, it's like, you know what? Hopefully you will be at the table to help all of us, at the table to help us continue breaking those barriers and making a significant difference. Thank you.
Well, thank you. What the barriers that I see from my perspective, it starts with our color, and it shouldn't, because racism is just a word. It's inside of us. It's a feeling. And what we have to do to break barriers is for number one, we need to be in a position to make more money. If we are qualified for a position, we should be hired for that position. We shouldn't have to crawl and scrape just to get in a position when we're either overqualified or we're underqualified. And what I stress to anyone that's trying to break barriers in their lives, because my barriers, I'm still trying to break barriers, because I always wanted to make enough money to buy a boys girls club. That was my dream from high school, to one day be able to have enough money to build a boys and girls club right here in Coatesville. So those little girls and boys that I see in the rain because they have nowhere to play, out in the cold because they have nowhere to go, basketball courts, technology, computer labs, things that's going to improve their abilities to succeed in life. These are the barriers. Transportation hubs, medical facilities that's going to benefit people in neglected areas. So barriers that will make you give up. Don't ever give up, because the only thing in giving up is that you will never know your success, your potential, and never go back, because the distance going back is the same as the finish line. So when I talk about barriers, I came here with barriers, plenty of them. And as each day came and each day left, I became stronger. And I not only brought something to the table, my clients brought something too. I learned a lot from them. When I first came through that door, I was more or less coming because I needed a job. Even though I was involved in my community, I love my community, I love my church. I could name 100 things that I've done working with the county, working with handicrafters, meetings. I've done all that. I have it documented. But my greatest gift sitting here right now is giving to people in need. That's my greatest gift. My greatest gift is being able. What is happening to me is I'm being paid to do what I love. And I can't be happy unless I know that person next to me is happy. I don't see color. They talk about the glass ceiling. Kamala Harris broke it. Color, the first the first female vice president, and the first Black. But do you hear bells and whistles blowing anywhere? No. You're not going to. But what I'm here to say, all you have to do is keep trying, keep moving, don't give up. And along the way, don't just think about yourself. A lot of people don't come into the nonprofits because they want to get paid. I want to get paid too. But see, at the end of the day, when you go home and you look into your mirror and you open your door, how small, how minute, how, you don't have the flash, but I'm home and I've accomplished something today. I've helped somebody. I've helped somebody feed their children. I've helped somebody pay their rent, pay their electric. I've helped somebody put clothes on their back. I've helped somebody with transportation to get to and from work. And most important, I listened. I listened to somebody that needed an ear. And that's what it's about. That's what we are about. I'm more of a writer. And I speak at churches and I have it written down. And my teammates know that. They know that about me. But I am proud to have been asked by Odette, by Amelia, and I'm proud to have all of you that took the time out of your lunch to sit in with us and listen, because we need help. We can do so much more. We can go so far. We can help so many. It's about helping people. It's not about us taking any type of money, putting it anywhere. And while I'm on that subject, let's start helping our Black churches. These churches are underwater. This is COVID-19. Nonprofits, all of us are underwater. Dig in those pockets. Just like when you go to those, pay all that money to go to the Super Bowl and all those places, you don't even fret it. Don't even think about it. Do it for us. Make it easier for us so we know that the finance department, that Dolly, and thank you, Dolly, for saving me, because I was nervous. And everybody look and know me that I'm not nervous. But this is my first photo op. I'm ready for my photo op, Mr. Medina. But no, this is what the barriers, we all know, like Dolly said, the emperor has no clothes. The emperor's running around butt naked. We all know that now. So let's join together. Those of us who are not worried about the color of our skin, and come together and work together and get into the nonprofit. And yes, there are some beautiful, strong, proud Black girls out there. They're everywhere. Look at Odette. Say, they're everywhere on TV, moving and shaking. That's the reason that Dolly, that I do what we do. That's the reason that our ancestors did what they did. We're standing on their backs. And we're not meant to be by ourselves. We didn't isolate ourselves. We didn't choose to be over here and you're over there. We want to join with you because discrimination comes in all colors. I love those white girls just like I love those black ones coming through my door. I help them just the same. I don't see that. And children don't see that. Domestic violence is taught. They didn't come into this world hating on anybody. Someone taught them. They saw this. I saw it. I saw it. And you're either going to be the abuser or you're going to be abused. See? So, and you accept it. If you grow up in a house where there is abuse, you will accept it because you see the people you love accept it. It's the norm. You can get a gun quicker than you can get a sandwich. There's something wrong with that picture. You can get a bag of drugs because we deal with that too. That is on the rise. We have a lot of our victims coming with the baggage, not just being abused, but an addiction problem as well. So we have to face that. We have to work with that. We need more. We need more. I don't want to take up any more time, but the fear is gone. Thank God.
Thank you so much. There were so many great nuggets out of everything that you both said. I definitely think that empowerment is important for women of color to make sure that they see themselves in roles as leaders. In your respective fields, why do you feel that representation matters?
Poor, middle class, upper class, individuals who are homeless, rent homes, own homes, Black and brown individuals must be at the table. Their voices, their input matters. That we need to know how we can best serve. And we can't do that in our little boxes, in our little circles, because all voices do matter. They need to be heard. So yes, we as individuals who work in the domestic violence movement, who work in other fields, we have to make sure that it is inclusive of all voices, ideals, practices, procedures. They do matter. And we need to learn how to blend those voices. Again, don't pretend that we're invisible. That again, in reflecting back, I can remember many times that I've been at a meeting, and I was probably one of two Black, brown individuals in the room, and I would say something, and it was like they would go on, and I was like, "Wait, what just happened here?" And I was like, "Oh, that's right. What always happens." But one of my mentors a long time ago, who is a Black woman, told me, "You know what you need to do, Dolly?" She said, because you have a lot of good ideas. And I said, "What?" She said, "You need to stand up. They're going to look at you. You're going to be scared, but stand up and say what you need to say. And you're going to get some feedback back." Again, it was probably 3 years ago in Chester County. I was at one of those meetings, and it's like, I was the only Black person at the meeting, only person of color at the meeting. And we were discussing some local procedures. And I made a statement, and it was like glossed over. Then I made another one that was glossed over. And I said, "Okay, my mentor, stand up, Dolly." I stood up, and they were like, "What is she gonna do?" And of course, a Black woman standing up, and I'm tall. It's like, "Oh, what is she gonna do?" And I was just as calm, and I said, "Hey, you know what? I hear what you're all saying, but what really needs to happen is that we need to get some things in writing, and we need to start with smaller steps. and not just talk about it, but what are we going to do? So yeah, voices at the table matter, that we need to ensure that Black and brown people's voices are heard and understood and respected, and that follow-up questions are asked. It's like, don't overlook, ask the questions. If you don't understand, ask the questions, and continue to involve brown and Black people at the table in making a change. It is long overdue.
Thank you. Ms. Amanda?
Well, from my perspective, um, change is only going to come when we realize it. And we cannot continue to wait for change to come from the top, because change is not going to come from the top. We have to make inroads. There is no change for us because violence is rooted and screamed at and penetrated throughout the media on a continuous basis around the clock. But kindness seems to sit in a corner and gather dust. So it's up to those of us, because we are stronger, because love is stronger than hate. So we can make a difference. We can make a change in this world if we come together, if we stop the biases within ourselves. We're at the table, yes. And it's a lot of us Black and brown at the table. And we come with a lot of nonsense and unnecessary causes that's only going to slow us down. We have a job to do. There are people suffering all over this world. And if you listen close enough, you'll hear them. So until we come to the table, and it's written, I don't want to go biblical on you, but it is written, until we all come to the table in agreement. Anytime you argue over a $15 minimum wage raise, something is wrong. When there have been billions and trillions of dollars made just off this pandemic alone. So but you can't get caught up in that. See, what we're doing, what most people do is they're caught up in that. Remove yourself from that and look at God's portrait, the one he meant for us to give and help and serve. And that's why I'm glad you don't have to give me any more money, especially at my age. I can't fly anywhere. Just give me someone I can help and make a difference and see the difference. Yes, we have our problems too. As Dolly said, you can go home and you wonder why. Now, why did I do that? Why do I even bother with this one? Because they're a human being. And down the road somewhere, they ran into some big problems, some serious issues. And my job and what I want, if I can do this, one of the things I want to do is break it open and able to see why it is happening. Why are you still there? Why you keep going back? Even though I know why, because I went back. I went back, bloody. I was called at the hospital. Brandywine left the Coatesville Police Department. That's when the rapid response, and I was the only one here. But now we have a lab coordinator. Now we have an education coordinator, whereas I don't have to do presentations. I did hundreds of presentations. And I cover from Melvin to Gap to Parksburg, Salisburyville, Valley Township. The Coatesville office takes care of all of that. And I was at the Brandywine Hospital. They called me, went up there, and there was a young lady there laying in the emergency room, and she was bleeding. And she said, hold my hand. And when she took my hand, it took me back to when it happened to me. And I understood. She said, I don't know whether I want to leave or not. I don't have anywhere to go. And it took me back when I walked in that emergency ward in Delaware, living in a high-rise apartment with a doorman on the door, can see who came in my house from my TV, could see the Walt Whitman Bridge from my condo. See, but I took those beatings just for that material asset. So when the nurse came over to me and asked me, what happened? Blood gushing, scar still here. I told her I fell off a ladder. I left with my abuser, and I was abused again and again and again. So that's why I'm here. And I held her hand. And I didn't tell her my story, but I said to myself, I can't let her hand go because there was nobody there to hold mine. But I'm here to hold hers. And I'm not going anywhere. And no, I won't be here forever because age is not going to permit me to. But when I do leave, I want to leave a message for all of you out there that think that violence and domestic violence and hatred and racism and systemic race, you call it what you want, but it's only a word. See, racism is something that we cling to when we don't want to accept change. It's time for a change. Let's come together, white brothers, white sisters. We do it. Sergeant Alice, police department, we worked on that police department for years. And now we finally have a police department that understands. Now, you're going to have bad apples wherever you go. We have them in our job. You're not going to phase that out. Not coming to say that everybody's perfect, but they work together. That man, that they stop, they worry about kids, they have a bike giveaway. If the kid is doing good, they will give that child a bike. You know how important a bike is when you don't have a car or can't drive a car. So these are things that are happening here. I can't say it enough. Domestic Violence Center not only saved my life, it gave me a purpose. It gave me my purpose. It gave me that platform. Like Harriet Tubman once said when she was being interviewed. An interviewer asked Harriet, he said, Miss Tubman, he said, how many slaves have you saved? You know, they say you've saved over 1,000 slaves. You know how journalists are. You know the media trying to catch you in something. And she said, I guess I've saved about 1,000. She said, but, that conjunction. She said, but I would have saved many, many more slaves if only they knew they were slaves. And that sticks with me. If only they know they're being abused. If only they know they're in an abusive situation. And that's where we come in. We have to let them know, talk to them, counsel them, and bring them out and empower them to move on to self-sufficiency. And that's my job.
Thank you so much for your answers. You both raised such an important point about having leaders of color at the table, but also being voices that are making a part of the changes that we want to see. Our final question is, what advice would you give the next generation of Black women leaders?
Again, be at the table, be present, speak up, speak out, get involved, get involved. Also, to make sure that you have a Black or brown mentor, that if one doesn't approach you, you approach someone else and ask if they would be your mentor. Again, the mentor can be outside of your circle. It can be someone that you had a short contact with, and you were admired by that individual, and just approach that person and say, I really like what you had to say. Can you help me? And I know that Black and brown individuals will be definitely willing to assist. So in terms of our young generation, and as Amanda talked about, write things, and again, do so professionally with the social media feeds. Put your input out there professionally. Speak out about different issues, but also roll up your sleeves, get involved. You can start small. You can be involved in a, a garden for a community so that they can learn how to grow their own food and to have that food that can be nourishment for their household. Because again, we know that over the last year, times have been extremely difficult for all of us with this pandemic, and that there are even more needs. The needs have been compounded. That if you see something, say something. Again, always keep yourself safe, but say something. If you see someone in need, approach that person. Don't be judgmental, but just to say, I saw, I heard, how can I help you? And be genuine about being supportive. So, young leaders, we need you. We need your input. We need your energy. We need your ideals. We need you to invest in your neighbors. Please, please invest in your neighbors, invest in your community, because it's really, really important. I know that you've all heard that you are our future.
Mhm.
Just think about that for a minute. You are our future. And what will be our future? It's going to depend on you. It's going to depend on your group in terms of what our future is going to look like. But you are powerful. You are smart. You have great ideals, and we need to hear from you. Definitely be at the table. Thank you.
Ms. Amanda?
Yes, I can't say enough how much I love children. See, children are the driving force. They're the reason I breathe and get up every morning. I still run a prison ministry that I've been involved with for over 20 years. I have helped 4 young men graduate from college just through the prison ministry. I have helped them get GEDs just through the prison ministry. I have taught Hispanic boys how to write just through letters and writing, and them writing me back and me correcting their work over the past 20 years. I have brought them out of prison and helped them get back on their feet. And they've gone through abuse and neglect and racism all their lives. And they're in all colors, white, black, Hispanic. And they know how I feel. And what I say to them is what I say every single day. Keep it moving. Don't you let nothing or no one stop you. And there has to be a sponge, and we're that sponge. We're there to absorb anything you might not understand. We're there to help you if you find yourself in a situation that you're going to go and get into trouble. That's my job. So I brought all that experience and coupled it with my experiences as an abused and used person. And through all that, I was blessed enough to have beautiful children that have gone on to college and working and haven't gone to prison, don't smoke. Well, they don't smoke, but they might drink a little bit. But I'm proud. And I'm proud of all those that I have brought out of prison. One of my young boys, they call me mom, but they're my godchildren. When I first started, I didn't know why. But as Dolly, as you're driven. There's this drive in you that you want, sometimes you want to give up. You say, well, it's not enough money in this for me. I can't even keep I can't make my ends meet from one week to the other. But if you hang in there long enough, your payday coming. See, because for some reason, I'm able to have some change in my pocket now, because my kids are grown. They're able to work. They're able to take care of themselves. So I'm comfortable. And where I am right now is where I want every young person to be, but in their dream. Go for your dream. I had a dream that you'll be what you can be, that the doors will open for you and no one will stop you because of the color of your skin. And you'll get that opportunity you need to be all that you can be. That is my hope for every young person that are out there that are feeling like you can't make it, no one to help you. Go for it. Believe in yourself and take the first step, because the distance going back is the same as the finish line.
Thank you both so much. Well, everything you had to say was just resonated with me, and I'm sure it resonated with everyone listening. We're going to take a couple of questions from the audience if you guys just want to type in your questions. But I just want to share with you some of the comments that people have been writing. They love you both. We have thank you. That was very powerful and informative. One person said, thank you, Dr. Wideman-Scott and Ms. Winky. As a Black woman, this has been very inspiring and uplifting. Someone else has said, Amanda and Dolly are amazing women. I'm inspired by them and honored to work with them. This has been an amazing discussion today.
Well, thank you, sweetie, because I was scared.
You're amazing, Ms. Amanda.
I was scared.
Does anybody have any questions they want to ask Dolly and Ms. Amanda?
I guess not.
Okay, so if no one has any questions, we're gonna end the presentation today. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today, and to Dolly and Miss Amanda for sharing your amazing story with us and insight. It's been amazing to talk with you guys today, and I'm just very grateful for the conversation.